Lovelies, and welcome to this week's Crystals and Coffee. Thank you for joining me. I am back in my car to bring you this podcast this week. So again, apologies for potential traffic noises, wind noise because I've got my windows open, etc. But we'll get through it. I'm sure we'll be fine. So this week, I want to talk about some realignment, or kind of getting yourself back into alignment after the last few months. Now, I put a blog up on my website earlier this week. I don't know if you've read it. If not, you might want to go ahead and read it. It's like I say, it's on my website, katiebatt.com, and it was all about this topic, of which I'm now going to talk about in a lot more detail. So the last few months has been a long winding road, been quite the roller coaster for a lot of people, and we may have emotionally, mentally lost our way. And now it's getting to the point now where we're being thrust back out into the world, or we're still staying home because we're unsure, we're a bit confused. There's a lot of mixed messages coming from the media, from the governments, and we all, it's just, it can just get a lot sometimes. It can be quite overwhelming, and I think the knock-on effect from that is there's been a lot of frustration, which I'm sure you've seen. People are very frustrated, rightly or wrongly, in the media, and I think everyone as well is kind of, and this is not to belittle the situation, I'm just talking about emotionally, we're getting a little bit fatigued, like this kind of pandemic fatigue of the toll that it's taken on the world around us, our everyday lives, everything else, and that's totally natural to feel that way. Like I say, it's not like trying to undermine the gravity of what's been happening and people who have lost their lives. But on our everyday life, it wears down on you. And I think that's only natural. Not to mention all of the plans that you may have had for this year have all been just wiped out. And you've been unable to make new plans because of all the uncertainty. I mean, the world's changing week to week at the moment. It's really difficult to try and make any kind of plan. So, it's difficult, and it can be frustrating, it can be overwhelming. And then on the other side of that, though, because of these experiences that we've been through, you may have noticed that you've gained a change in perspective, or your priorities have changed, or things that were important to you before you've realized you can live without, or things that weren't important to you, or you maybe took for granted before, are now really important to you, because we've been kind of given all these lessons and try and learn that maybe everything wasn't as it seemed. I think that's probably the best way to put it. So there may be different things that are important to you now, and with all the confusion going on, all of this overwhelmingness, all of this change, uncertainty, not being able to plan from 1 week to the next, or 1 month to the next, and certainly not looking into next year, because who the hell knows what's going to happen in the next 6 months. We just don't know. And I think that's something that we've come to learn from this year, is that you never know. But you can't live your life like that. You can't put your life on hold for the ifs, buts, and maybes. So there are still things that you need to do, but it can be very difficult to figure out what that is, or figure out what you need to do when you're in the midst of all of this emotion and uncertainty. So that's where realignment comes in. And it's about kind of taking stock of what's going on in your here and now, taking stock of what's important to you, what's not important to you, letting go of things that don't serve you anymore, that you've been clinging on to for no reason, or have been hanging over you, and you just want to cut the cords and let that go, and not drag that energy around with you. And you may want to open yourself up to new opportunities going forward, and all of these different things. So being in alignment with yourself is the first step to moving forward, basically, because if you can align yourself with what's important to you now, bring yourself back into balance, maybe some grounding, and just know and get yourself settled from the inside, then the outside will flow a lot easier, because you're not going through all of this inner conflict. So that's what I wanted to focus on today. I know it's really breezy. I'm sorry if it's interrupting the sound there, but I can't close the windows in the car today because it's so hot. I'll just end up cooking, so I'm sorry. But yeah, so we're going to talk about the realigning, a little process you can follow for realignment, and there are different steps that you can take and do them at your own pace. Some may take longer than others. You may be able to just zip through it in one go. Everyone's different. Everyone's got different things to move around and move on from, and so don't feel that you've got to do it all in one go, because there's a few steps involved. And I have also created, to accompany this process that I'm about to talk about, I have created it's a 10-page workbook that is now available on my Etsy store, which is all about this realignment process. So you can literally go through the workbook step by step and take your time with it and go at your own pace. And it's something that you can revisit whenever you need to do a realignment. You can just go back to that workbook and follow the prompts and follow the steps. It's a direct download, so if you did want to use it, then it's available on my Etsy store and it gets delivered straight to your inbox for you to use, ready and waiting. So I'm going to go through the process now, and the first thing that's really key to do when you're trying to sort out everything that's going on in your head and you're trying to just make sense of everything, and that is to declutter your mind. You want to empty it out completely, and the easiest way to do this is to just sit down with a blank page and a pen and just write. Try not to even think too much about what you're writing. It doesn't even have to make sense. It can be in note form, it can be like a journal entry, it can be however it comes out of your brain, and just put it all out onto the page. Just everything that's been racing around, whether it makes sense or not, good or bad, just dump it all onto this page or multiple pages, however much you need to write out. You just want to declutter it, get it out, try it, and in this way it's a way of expressing it, it's a way of communicating it out. If you don't rather than verbally communicating to another person, you just need to splurge it all out. So that's the first thing to do, is just empty your mind, just let it all out onto paper, purely as a clearing out exercise. It's like a declutter activity. So you're going to want to do that, and then you're going to want to kind of just fold the page over, move it away, and not look at it again just yet. You just want to empty it, not think about it too much, and just think, oh, that's so good to get it all out of my head. That's the kind of thing, the process that we're looking at there. And then now that you've been able to do that, I would suggest that this next stage comes reasonably quickly after emptying your mind, because you don't want to give it time to refill back up again. So once you've decluttered your mind, then it's time to just do some relaxation and some winding down. Let yourself stop, let yourself settle, try and relieve some anxiety, and try and let the things go, even if it's just temporarily, just to allow yourself to switch off. There's a few ways that you can do it. I mean, you may already have your own ways that you like to say meditate, or just lie down and do some deep breathing exercises. You may want to meditate with crystals. You may just like to sit in a quiet space and read a book, bit of escapism, whatever you usually use, just to have that relax and winding down time. That's fine. Or you might want to do some grounding exercises where you can put your bare feet on the floor and visualize those roots pulling you into the ground, whilst concentrating on your breathing, just to kind of just bring you back into yourself and just help release some of those stresses. And I do detail in the workbook the process of doing a crystal meditation, if that is something that you would choose to do. So there is a step-by-step process of that in there as an example for you as well. So then you've done your decluttering and you've done some relaxation and tried to let some stress and some anxiety go and relax. So the next step is you want to release things that no longer serve you. So you may want to do this the following day because you don't want to kind of just get yourself all worked up again if you've just done the relaxation. So that's kind of one thing to do. And then when you maybe had a good night's sleep, you want to come back to things with a clear head, then you might want to do this stage. And releasing what no longer serves you you may want to look back at what you emptied out of your mind, things that have been racing around in your head. And maybe there'll be things on there that you're thinking, why is that in my brain? It's not even relevant anymore. Why am I still carrying that around with me? I need it gone. Or something's occurred to you in the last few months and you're just like, do you know what? I don't need that in my life anymore. I'm done with it. So these are the sort of things you just need to release and let go. So once you have determined what these things are that you want to release into the universe, you're done with them, you can be grateful for the lessons you learned from them potentially, but it's time to let them go. It's to write them on a separate piece of paper in a list form of the things that you want to let go. You may even want to write at the top of the paper, I release these things from me, or I wish to let these things go. Just something like an intention of what you want to do. List those things and then burn that list, and burn it safely in a fireproof, fire safe container, fire safe area. Burn that list to ashes, burn it away, and that just completely, fire has a lot of energy, so it's just going to be taking those things, burning off of the energy that you no longer need and releasing it into the universe. And as it's burning, you may want to visualize that those things are being let go, and that they are no longer with you and you can move on freely. So that's the next part in the exercise, to release what no longer serves you. List it, burn it, release it to the universe. You don't need it anymore. It's a very key point to be able to align yourself, is to just be able to let go what you've been dragging around, and you just can accept that this is something that you no longer need. So once you've done the decluttering, you've done some relaxation, you've released what no longer serves you, now it's time to focus on what is important to you. What are your values? How do you like to spend your spare time? What quality time do you want to spend with who? And it's not about big plans or in the future or like big goals. This is all about the here and now. This is about aligning yourself into the here and now. So it's just about thinking about maybe things that have changed for you in the last few months, or things that have remained, or things that you just know have remained the same, so therefore they must be core important things to you. So you can list these things out. What is important to you? Who is important to you? And how is it important to you to spend your time now reflecting on your experiences in the last few months? And obviously remembering what you've released, so you don't want that to creep back in there either. And in addition to this, about figuring out what's important to you, is also, how do you want to feel right now? Like, how do you want to feel when you wake up in the morning, or throughout your day, or just in general in your life, with your lifestyle? How do you want that to make you feel? Don't try and think about the hows and what's right now. Just think about, how do you want to feel? How would you like to feel? And list those emotions down and think, this is how I would like to feel in my everyday life, or in general. This is how I want to feel. This is how I want to live my life. And then once you've done the how do you want to feel, maybe take a look back at all of the emotions that you've written down, and you can make some notes, some little baby steps of what you can do, or what you feel would need to happen for you to feel that way, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. But just note some things down about, like, well, if I want to feel this way, this is what needs to happen. And then put that down and those steps, and then think about maybe how you can start doing it. It all has to start from somewhere. And right now we're just thinking about how you want to feel, how it can happen, and how you can feel content and comfortable and in alignment. That's the end goal for this process, is to feel balanced and in alignment, and knowing within you what's important to you, and those kind of values you need to carry through with you. So focus on what's now important to you, what makes you feel good, how you want to feel, what makes you feel that way, and how you can do it. So it's pretty much like a big journal entry. All of this can sound like an awful lot. I have broken it down into different pages in the workbook, so there's a different page dedicated to each level of this, so you can write out your thoughts and then bring them all together at the end, because there is a lot to remember with me just waffling on about it. And then once you've kind of come to that, you've looked at all of these areas and you've written them all down, then the final thing to do is to bring it all together and write out and set some intentions, whether it be one general intention or a number of intentions, onto this separate sheet, which is like the final part of the process, is to write out your intentions. And you may want to then keep these intentions with you. You may want to put them in a prominent place where you can see them every morning or every day to remind yourself of your intention of how you want to live and how you want to be. And you may even want to program a crystal with that intention. So sit with your crystal collection and think about your intention, and then see what crystal you are drawn to naturally, intuitively, and pick that crystal up, hold it in your both hands, and while you're holding it, repeat your intention and ask the crystal to help you with your intention. So you're programming that crystal with the intention or intentions that you have set yourself based on your realignment process, and keep that crystal with you, and it will have that intention energy with you wherever you go. So that is the process, and you could get that all done in a couple of days. You could just blast through it, or it might take you over the course of a whole week, or maybe longer. It's, a lot of it might take a lot of inner work, and it may take a lot of thought, but you go with what feels good for you. And I mean, you can replay this podcast to remind you of the different stages. You can go ahead and read the blog, which outlines some of the stages quite briefly, or you can go ahead and have a look at and download the workbook, which will take you through every single stage and a different page for each, and you can do it all in your own way, basically. So I'll put the link to the I'll put the link to the workbook in the description below, and the link is in the blog as well. I think you'll find it very helpful to go through this process, because it's just nice to have a visual aid to kind of just help you through, and something to actually just be able to guide you, even if you use the workbook as a guide and you then do all of the practical stuff in your own journals and things like that. It can be really, really helpful. I think it's an important process to go through. It's a process that I have been through recently, hence why I'm talking to you about it now. I did from the last full moon. Was it the last full moon or the full moon before? It might have been the full moon before. I did the release, the releasing what no longer serves me, and I burned the list, and I literally woke up the following morning and I had felt such a shift in energy. It was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and things then did start to flow and happen because I'd let go of all of the negativity that I was carrying around. So it is a really effective process, and I hope that you find it really helpful. Please do communicate with me. You know my socials. The links are in the description, but you can follow me on Instagram. It's at kbcrystalcoffee, and it's on YouTube. I'm on Facebook. The comment section below the podcast, I know that are on some of the podcast sites, depending on where you're listening to this from. But DM me, comment, ask me questions, however you feel comfortable doing it, or email me. There's a form on my website. You can contact me directly. I love to hear from you. I love to hear your experiences. And if you have any questions, do feel free to ask me, because again, I do love hearing from you. And I just hope you find this process helpful, and it's something that you are keen to do as well. Realigning yourself so that you can feel balanced and content will shift energy blocks, and it will open up other avenues. It lets the universe know that you're open to attracting things, new things towards you, because you've let the old things go. And all of those things are great energy shifts for us all to be doing right now. So I think I'm going to leave it at that, so I don't keep waffling on at you. But yeah, give it a try and let me know how it goes and how you feel, and if you find it helpful. And take a look at the workbook if you want some added guidance with the process as well. Like I say, all the links will be in the description below, or you can find it on my website, katieback.com. And I'll be back again next week talking to you again. I hope you will be there to join me. Have a great week and take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.